Lesson number 11, equality. So remember, we're going over the principles of democracy, which are liberty, justice, and equality. We've already looked at liberty and justice, so now we're going to look at equality to finish up our lessons on the three principles. So our objectives are you'll be able to define equality, and then we're going to look at some examples. And as I read them, you can kind of think to yourself, is this or is this not equality? You'll be able to describe how equality was a pushing factor for colonization, meaning a reason why people came to America. Students will evaluate inequalities around the world and apply them to their lives today. So you'll be looking at some examples of inequality, which means when people are not treated equally, and you'll be able to see how it is in some other parts of the world as far as equality goes. So our essential questions are: what is equality? What are some examples of equality and inequality? So you'll be able to tell me what equality is, and you'll be able to come up with examples of equality and inequality. How did specific historical figures and documents shape the Founding Fathers' idea of equality? Remember, that's our ongoing essential question, is how things before America influenced the way that we do things. So remember, civics, and we're going over this again because it's important to remember. Civics is the study of us and our relationship with government. So that's what we're looking at throughout this year, is what our lives have to do with the government, the way that the government and us as citizens interact. And the principles are things that they're supposed to uphold, they're supposed to protect. We've talked about how they're supposed to protect liberty. We've talked about how they're supposed to protect justice. Now we're going to look at how they're supposed to protect equality. So what is equality? It's probably one of the easier ones for you guys to remember because you know the word equal. You know what it means for something to be equal. That means everybody gets the same amount of something. For example, if you had a bag of candy and there was 30 Skittles in it, and to be equal, you split it with a friend. Each of you would get 15 Skittles. You would each get 15. That's equal. It's fair. I'll read the definition to you before we move on. Everyone should get the same treatment regardless of where they are from, their race, religion, gender, or wealth. What that means is no matter who you are, you should be treated the same. It does not matter what skin color you are. It does not matter what religion you practice. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. And it doesn't matter how much money you have. You should be treated the same no matter what. So now we're going to look at 4 scenarios. They're kind of similar. And I want you to just think to yourself, is this equality or is this inequality? So remember, equality means that everyone's being treated the same, regardless of what they look like or their religion, things like that. And inequality means that there's some kind of mistreatment, that people are being treated based on who they are or what they are. So I'll read them to you and kind of think to yourself which you think they are, either equality or inequality. So Linda lives in a neighborhood with 2 schools. School A is 1 mile away and school B is 10 miles away. Because Linda is African American, she has to attend school B, which is the further school, the one that's 10 miles away, while her neighbors attend school A. Is that equality? Is that fair or is that not fair? Is she being treated differently because of something about her? Some kind of characteristic about Linda. If she is being mistreated solely based on some kind of characteristic, that would be inequality. Tom and Larry are longtime friends. They have identical grades from high school, and so they apply for the same job. In the interview, Tom explains he will not be able to work Saturdays because it is a religious day in the Jewish faith. As a result, Larry gets the job instead. So same thing. Was Tom wronged in some way just because of something about him? So if you've looked at these 2 scenarios, listen to me read them, you might have your own opinion on whether or not this is equality or inequality. I would say that both of these are definitely examples of inequality. That means that both of these people, Linda and Tom, have been wronged in some way just because of something about them. Linda has been wronged because she's an African American. She has to go to a school, even though it's 10 miles away and there's a school that's closer. just because she's an African American. So because something about Linda, a characteristic like race, gender, or religion, is used to decide where she goes to school, that's not equality. That's inequality. She's been mistreated based on her race. Tom is the same thing, except it's religion. He doesn't get a job based on the fact that he's Jewish and can't work on Saturdays. So something has been used about Tom, his religion, against him in a situation. So he has not been picked for a job, primarily, as it seems anyway in this scenario, because he's Jewish and can't work on Saturdays. These are examples of inequality. About these, same people, different scenarios. Linda lives in a neighborhood with two schools. School A is 1 mile away, school B is 10 miles away. Linda can attend either school because the schools are identical. Tom and Larry are longtime friends. They have identical grades from high school, so they apply for the same job. In the interview, Tom explains he will not be able to work Saturdays because it is a religious day in the Jewish faith. The interviewer says that will not affect his chances of getting the job. So with both of these situations, we see the same people, except now they're in scenarios that promote equality. Nothing is being used against these people. No physical characteristics, no race, no religion, no gender, all these things that we discussed. None of those things are being used against them in making decisions. With Linda, it's where she gets to go to school. With Tom, it's whether or not he gets a job. So because none of those things were used against them, in these decisions, in these scenarios, this would be examples of equality, meaning that people are being treated equally regardless of their race, their religion, their gender, etc. So just a little bit more on equality. Equality is something that has brought a lot of people to America for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's something that people around the world identify with America and the United States, and it's something that's kind of been a characteristic since the start of America. Now, have we always practiced equality? Certainly not. Is there times even today when not everyone is treated equally? I think so, and I'm sure you do too. So we're just looking at different scenarios and possibilities of equality, but there are going to be times when inequality does occur. So I'll read a couple of the examples of equality to you. So you've probably heard of the Pilgrims and coming over on the Mayflower and landing at Plymouth Rock and all that stuff. They came here because where they were in Europe, they weren't supposed to be practicing the religion that they were practicing. So they came to America. Not 100% the reason why, but a big reason was because they wanted to practice their religion and not be told that they couldn't. So they came here because they were facing inequality based on their religion back in Europe. Europeans. A lot of Europeans came to America because they lived in conditions with famine, which means they didn't have a lot of food. They didn't have enough land. It was too crowded in Europe. And a lot of them, just like the Pilgrims, were persecuted or wronged in some way based on maybe what they thought about politics, like their beliefs, or about their religious beliefs. So a lot of Europeans come to America for those reasons, seeking equality, seeking to be treated the same as everybody else. Same thing with Asian and Pacific Islanders. Over the past, especially 40 years, a lot of people from that part of the world have come here because the countries in that area haven't had the best economies, and it's been tough to get work, and people have been treated with inequality in those areas. So a lot of them have come to America seeking equality and a fresh start. So all these people are what we call immigrants, people that came to America from another country, and they came here seeking these principles that we've discussed: liberty, justice, and in this example, equality. Do they always receive that? Not always. We're going to look at that in some of the assignments. So that wraps up this lesson. By now, you should be able to give at least a brief definition of equality, and you should be able to come up with examples of equality. You should be able to describe an example of how equality drew people or made people want to come to America. And then in the assignment, you're going to look at examples of inequalities and how that relates to your life. How you can see that in some parts of the world there's massive amounts of inequality, and you'll be able to compare that to what we have here in the United States. So don't forget to answer the questions that are below my face. And if you have any questions, please reach out. If not, good luck.